Hey there, I'm Chase Clements, and this is the Support Ops Hangout. This is a show that helps you deliver a better support experience to your customers. Now, if you don't know everybody yet, you should absolutely meet the crew before we dive in. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. First up, Chase Livingston from Automatic. How are you?
Doing very well. Glad to be here. Excited for our big grand meetup coming up in a couple days.
Ooh, yeah, you take like all 500 of you automaticians and shove them into a city. That's insane. Where is it this year?
That's right. We're going to Whistler, British Columbia. It's just north of Vancouver. It's where the Olympics were, or the Winter Olympics a couple years ago and that kind of thing. So we're taking over the Hilton and the Westin and a bunch of restaurants. So it should be pretty intense.
Fun.
It sounds intense. That's probably a good word for it.
I don't see how it gets planned, but I'm excited to just show up and they'll tell me where to go.
Oh, and then the other third of this trio for today, Carolyn from Buffer. How are you?
I'm great. I'm back in Central Time.
Isn't Central Time the best time? I mean, for all you West Coast and East Coast, I don't care what you say. Central Time is the best.
It's much more convenient than West Coast. I'll say that.
Yeah. So the only reason why I really find it convenient, Colbert used to come on at like 10:30. I can make it to 11 o'clock. Going from like 11:30 to midnight, that's late on these. Yeah. That's too late. So
yeah.
All right. This week, let's talk specialization. So as your support team grows, it can be really tempting to kind of start splitting out into different specialized groups. Think like team billing handles all the billing stuff, team success handles all the onboarding stuff, team whatever handles the whatever stuff. But is that really the best way to go about it? And especially for the smaller teams, this is something I'm starting to see more of, and it kind of boggles my mind. You'll see it like happening on smaller teams, like 5-6 people, and one person owns billing, which is kind of weird, or at least weird to me. I'll put it that way. So that's what we want to talk about. Really, just for you, the listener approach. Like, should you be specializing in some of this stuff, even if your team's not? Should you be kind of like immersing yourself into some of this? Yeah, so let's start on the smaller side. We'll give Chase Livingston a minute to kind of think about the case for the big team. But so, Carolyn, when it comes to Buffer, I know back in the day you kind of split up into different groups and things like that. Is that still going on?
Yeah, it is. It's probably, the groups have probably changed 10 times since we had that conversation, but it is, yeah.
And that was like 4 episodes ago.
Yeah, we do a fair amount of specialization. We do both. We do like certain groups focus on certain customers, and then we also do like one single person owns an area. And there's pros and cons to it. The pros are like the very deep knowledge that you can get, the sort of specialization, like the skills that you can get in specialization means that you can go faster on certain things. You have seen these issues more commonly. You become an expert on the topic if it's a narrower topic very quickly. The cons, of course, are if that one person is out, what do you do? So for example, we have like a mobile guy, and it's really great because he is the king of mobile. He knows everything there is to know. He has all of the snippets arranged in a perfect way. He knows exactly what's in the FAQ and what's not. Like he's so good at it, and nobody moves as quickly as he does or is as knowledgeable. So that's really awesome, except when he drastically changes time zones or like takes vacation or is sick, and then the rest of us are like, so
and there's an Android device, and an Android device running, and what Kit Kat? What is it? What are you talking about candy bars for?
Yes, that's exactly, like there's as soon as there's like constant, it's always that. It's like, can somebody take a screenshot of this action in an Android so that I could like. So there's ways around that, of course, and we're moving that direction of having libraries of those things, but that's sort of a level of maturity that we have not reached in all areas.
Yeah, so Chase Livingston, obviously y'all got kind of big, almost like products, I guess you would say. So you've got like Team Jetpack that handles like Jetpack stuff like you're on. Is there any other kind of specialization that goes on at Automatic? Is there any, besides the products? Like products to me have always made a little bit of sense, especially if your product's big,
Yeah, we have. We don't necessarily just focus on the single product. So for us that are working on Jetpack, we're also working on VaultPress, Akismet, PoleDaddy, WordPress Job Manager, a ton of these other plugins that we have too. So I wouldn't say Well, some of us end up specialized in certain areas, but as far as, day-to-day work, we're all technically supposed to be able to answer tickets and, all of those different areas. Some of us are obviously better than others at certain areas just because we may understand something a little better, or we just have spent more time in that over the years. And I think that's sort of the same throughout the rest of the company. I mean, we have several different WordPress.com support teams, some working on live chat, some working on tickets, some working on forums, social media. So they're all sort of, answering the same type questions, but they may specialize in different, methods of support, if you will. And then we also have, some store or billing teams that are mainly just focused on billing questions, store problems, if there are, refund needs that are odd or something like that, or if there was like a random duplicate charge because of some weird bug with PayPal or, something like that. We have teams that are sort of dedicated to those kinds of questions. But for the most part, we try not to specialize too terribly much, just so it's easy to jump back and forth if one queue needs help more so than another. Like if WordPress.com gets backed up, those of us on Jetpack can go jump in and help there if we're okay. So we definitely try to keep our knowledge current, across all the different products, even if we're not day-to-day working in them.
Yeah, see, just to throw in this so I did a little bit of prep for this one. Compared to the minimal amount I do for the rest of them. But anyways, for this one, I was searching back through some of the conversations I've had with Andrew Spittle before, automatic chases balls, semi-balls, something like that. I don't know.
I mean, you get to him eventually when you go up the chain, I guess.
Yeah. And Spittle had a great kind of quote about all this, so I figured I'd throw it in. He said, "The way I'd characterize our specialization is specialization through interest rather than ownership. So if you're interested in an area, then have at it. But by going deep on one area, you're not going to get to own everything about that area. Your goal should be spreading the deep knowledge you gained across the team so that more people can be involved in helping those customers." I think that's kind of the approach that we take at Basecamp too. It's so the best case I could make for specialization was back when we were 37 Signals and had several different products. Basecamp, Campfire, Hi-Res, Backpack, and all the other myriad little ones that we had too. There's a case there to be made that, if the numbers allow, if you have enough people and all that, right, you should let some people take high-rise cases. You should let some people take backpack cases and that kind of thing, just because the people that are more familiar with those are going to be able to answer those questions faster and get replies back faster. That's kind of putting the customer at the top of the pyramid, or whatever analogy you want to use there. That's fine. I can totally make that case. But I think for me, the bigger advantage is that, yeah, it's fine if, one person really wanted to learn how a product works inside and out, or they want to learn one area, like those weird PayPal interactions that Livingston mentioned a minute ago. That's fine to go deep into that one and kind of become kind of the go-to person. But that person, you should really be taking what you learned and sharing that to make sure that everyone has access to that deep knowledge. Maybe they don't know it as well as you do, but at the very least, they should have access to it in a written form somehow where they can tap into what you know. Kind of like Carolyn was talking earlier, it's the Android thing. Oh my God, we do it all the time. Because none of us are really, on the support team. Everybody answers whatever question gets thrown at us. So you'll get that one weird one that's like, on Android using gingerbread from 2 years ago on a very specific Samsung device that doesn't blow up in my hand. I see this weird little button. What's it for? And you have to sit there and go, all right, well, first off, who has that specific model and who's running that specific version? And can you send me a screenshot? And I know you've got a lot of other stuff to do during your day. Can you do all that and just send that to me, please? That's rough. I don't know any other, and not to be picking on Android. I mean, iOS has the same problem too, right? Somebody that's running a previous version or whatnot. That's tough. But I think the answer there, like Carolyn mentions, is not really specialization. It's one, have a library of all the Android devices you own or whatever mobile devices you own, so that who has what, rather than just bothering everybody. And two, building up those screenshots or other ways to test what you need to find out. I mean, like with me, it got to the point where I finally just bought some Google Android phone. That's how much I actually use it. I don't even know what does Google's make? Like
Nexus.
Nexus. I was like the Note. It's not the Note. The Nexus. It was like on sale for $200 one weekend, so I bought it, and it sits over here. And every time like I have a question about it, I literally have to go over and like plug it in, and then you've got 5 different updates to do, and then yeah. So I guess I should be better about kind of keeping that. But anyway, long story short, like that's the kind of specialization I like, when you go deep in an interest that you have, and then make sure that gets spread back out. You know, make sure it's not locked up in anyone's specific head or whatnot. Carolyn, so when like the size thing interests me too, and I know we talked about earlier, you got a hard stop coming up soon. So like on the smaller side, there's so many teams that I've talked to, and maybe it's just the people that I actually talk to and support driven and everything else, but it seems like that kind of specialization is happening earlier and earlier and earlier, like smaller team size. Like one person all of a sudden becomes they really know PayPal, so they're our billing person, and we don't answer any billing questions unless they're working that day. Like that seems not really the best mindset, I guess, as a way of saying it. Like when Buffer was smaller, was it like that?
When Buffer was smaller, our product was also simpler. So that also had a lot to do with it. We didn't have as many plans. We didn't have as many other products like Pablo and Respond and things like that. As of now, our Pablo and Respond is totally separate. And then the team that handles like main Buffer support is split into business versus regular. Mm-hmm. And then there's like a mobile team and a Twitter team. But yeah, in like the early days, the way I see it is like that example of you having the Android phone. Like there's a certain point at which it's like not as efficient for everybody to do that. Whereas in my opinion, for a certain size team, it's better for everybody to be able to answer everything, partially because like it's just good to be self-sufficient when you're that small, because, it's so much harder to be able to necessarily assume that the other person will be there or, let alone be in the same time zone. So you have to sort of be more willing to, be able to answer everything and find the answer yourself. At a certain size, that stops being the most efficient way to do it as a team, I think. So,
yeah, so I'm going to push a little on that one.
Yeah, okay.
When we talk about efficient, I mean, yeah, so like earlier, the efficient kind of angle was I can get a reply back to a customer quicker, right?
Right.
From the team side, I would kind of make the case that continuing that self-sufficiency up kind of grows that person in their career, as their own little, like, yeah, it comes to the cost of maybe the customer doesn't get the answer as fast, but you get a better, more well-rounded support person out of it, if that makes sense.
You do. The pushback to that is that it's also so much harder to hire somebody and train them up to like the point that they need to be. So like that's kind of what we found was the limitation, is like when you first started, you needed to know like, basically the ins and outs of Buffer. Mm-hmm. Then we had a much more advanced Android and iPhone app, and we have all these other things, and we have multiple plans, and we have like different extensions and different composers within the extension, and the extras page, and you have to know how IFT works with it, and like it becomes this like the knowledge that a person who's been at the company through that growth becomes this like monstrous, huge like atlas thing that like no brand new person could possibly catch up. And that's where we realized like we're having a hard time hiring somebody who we think will be able to hit the ground running, because there's so much knowledge and depth that's required. So but yes, I agree with the principle of the fact that like you do certainly become more skilled in your career if you do have sort of like a wide T. I really liked what Chase Livingston said about like when he referenced like, well, some of us just naturally are more engaged with one product or another. Like that's what we found as well. And I think this is similar to what Spittle was saying. Like it just happens, and like you can't really fight City Hall a little bit. Like as the team grows, it's just going to start happening. Like one person, and like people like what they're good at, and so as soon as somebody's good at it, then they like it, and then they work harder at it, and then they're better at it. So yeah, I think it's okay. But we do move people around a fair amount, and so there is this expectation to, Chase made this point as well, that you want to stay quite current in what the other products are doing, especially if you have like one central product, which we do.
Livingston, does that happen a lot too? Like we were talking, the method of support, live chat, email, that kind of thing. Is that like, are you rotating through those, or is that you're on live chat until we tell you otherwise?
It's sort of up to the individual happiness engineers. I mean, if you want to stay on live chat, then you're more than welcome to stay on live chat. But we also have, the ability, if we want to rotate. So we have people coming into Jetpack from live chat or somewhere else all the time, just because, I want to change a pace or whatever. And, as long as their team is well staffed enough that they could be gone for a little while, a couple months or something like that, to try out Jetpack support or whatever that might be, then sure, that's, totally fine. Just okay it with, the team leads and spittle and that kind of thing, and sort of make it official. And vice versa. We've had recently a couple of folks from our teams go to other teams, maybe like VIP or something like that, to work with some of those large customers for a little while and just get a taste of that side of the company that we don't all get to see very often. So it's sort of open-ended it's just a conversation you have to have with your team lead and that kind of thing, and just sort of figure out the logistics of it. But it's definitely, encouraged, as long as that can happen and not, cause detriment to your other team members or anything like that.
How many happiness engineers are there?
Oh gosh. There's a lot.
Like hundreds?
Hundreds probably, yeah. I'm not sure what the exact number is right now. I could probably ping Spittle right quick and ask him, but I don't know what the number is.
I'm just trying to get ballpark, like dozens, hundreds?
Yeah, I'd say hundreds at least.
Hundreds, okay. That's interesting.
I want to say the latest number was something like 2/3 of the company, so whatever 2/3 of 500 is.
A lot. Wow. See, I really love that kind of. So it kind of taps back into that. What's your interest? What do you as a support pro want to do with your career? What kind of things are you really want to dip your toes into? It's almost, as he was saying, I was like trying to figure in my mind, like what's another industry equivalent of that. And like the closest I could come off the top of my head, and I'm going to end the show and think of a million others. It's kind of like back in your college days before you declare a major, like you're taking a little bit of this and taking a little bit of that and trying this and trying that. And some stuff you're really going to enjoy and some stuff you're not. So you kind of gravitate, like Carolyn said, back to that stuff that you really enjoy, and kind of really deep dive into that knowledge and bring it back out and share it with everybody else. I think like that's the key to all this, right? So it doesn't matter how big or small you are. It doesn't matter kind of how you're specializing in things. It's whatever you're doing, making sure that you're making that information available to other people. So if you are like the only mobile guy and like hit by a bus kind of scenario, right? Like you don't want all that just to like all that work to have to be redone. That was one of those things, like I forget what conference we went to, but we realized at some point, like we were all in the air on different flights and we were like, oh crap. Like if something did happen, like most of the support team's just gone. Just like,
oh yeah. We have some stories like that.
I'm going to correct my number. I think it's 1/3 of the company. So it looks, I just looked up and it looks like we're right around 170. So still hundreds, but not as many hundreds as I originally said.
Cool.
Yeah. So last little thought here. If I am looking at, so assume the team doesn't have any kind of like specialization, right? Everybody's kind of learning, kind of organic and everybody's trying to maintain like at some base level at least. All right. Carolyn, we'll go with you and then give Livingston the last word on it. If I'm at a smaller company like that, dozens rather than hundreds, and there's not anybody else really specializing, like should I? Is that something that's in my best interest to start kind of honing in on one area?
It depends on if you want to stay at this company or not. And then it depends on what you choose. So if you're specializing in something that's very specific to this the industry that your particular company is in, then maybe if you think you want this to be the company that you become like a senior member of the team and stay and are there for, 6 years. If not, then maybe not.
Livingston, what do you think? Yeah, that's a good question, because I think Automatic is a little bit different in that we don't really have, there's not, upward mobility as much as some other companies. So just becoming a team lead or something like that is not like necessarily a promotion. And last I checked, there's not a who or anything staged on Spittle's job. So we're all...
There's not a what?
There's not like a coup staged or anything like that on Spittle's job. Nobody's trying to take that over. So
Spittle's amazing.
Yeah, we're pretty much
Don't
all...
coup on Spittle.
Right, yeah. We're pretty much all just, happiness engineers. And so at that point, it's like, we're just trying to find things that we enjoy as happiness engineers. And if that means specializing in Jetpack and like some of the weird connection issues and server issues that we see, then, we just, like Spittle says, we do that as an interest, more so than for the job necessarily. And so I think, every happiness engineer has some sort of specific interest. I know some of us are, and me included, are interested in Jetpack and sort of the more intricate pieces of how things work. Some people are more interested in billing questions just because they enjoy like digging into, your credit card was declined. Let's see if we can figure that out. So, things like that are sort of where we are at Automatic. And I think that's good. I mean, it gives us a lot of freedom to explore different things. It's not like we have to be stuck necessarily in that one interest. If we decide, hey, I want to check something else out, it's not like, oh, well, now you're the head manager of billing and you're not going to be able to do anything else. This is just what your career is at this company now. So freedom to explore that kind of stuff when it's not job dependent necessarily. It's just based on what you're interested in at any given time.
You're head of billing. Now get us those TPS reports.
Can I add one more thing?
Go for it.
The one thing that I think is really useful to specialize is platform. I do think there's a difference in cadence of if you're used to giving support in tweets versus emails versus live chat. Like that is a skill that I think you do develop and get better with sort of focused practice. So that I think is, not that you can't switch out and develop the skills and all, but I think it is useful to sort of stick in on Twitter or email or whatever for at least a little while.
All right. That's our take on this one. Let us know how your company handles it. Hit us up. It's hello@supportops.co on email, and we're at supportops on Twitter. Now, one big ask that we do have of you for this week. We are lining up some episodes for our next series, which is going to be the book club, because Carolyn had the idea, and it's fantastic. So in it, the plan right now is to pick 4 or 5 books that are must-reads for other customer support pros like us and like you. So we kind of want to hear which ones are your absolute required must read, every new hire gets a copy of this book kind of thing. Let us know what those books are. Same spots as before. You can hit us up at SupportOps on Twitter, hello@supportops.co on the email interwebs or tubes or whatever it is. So thanks again for listening. And until we see you again, have an awesome week.